Hi there, and welcome to the season finale of the Arkansas eTraveler. I'm Landon. This is a massive episode full of news that you need to know about Walmart EV charging. I have many guests to help us break it down and to extrapolate what we can expect in the future as we move forward tracking this new EV charging network. I'm also excited to share with you some personal news about, well, why is this the season finale? I'll break it down for you. Stick around. All right, let's get the party started here with two new open sites in the DFW Metroplex. The first one that has been open since October 22nd is Supercenter 940 in Westworth Village. And to see a charging session there and the layout of the site, let's go to Spencer.
Hey, welcome to Walmart Supercenter 940 in Westworth Village, the latest Walmart Energy site to open up. It actually opened today or yesterday potentially, but it does say plug in to get started. All right, it does say plug in to get started at 45 cents a kilowatt hour, so I will go ahead and do that. I've got the next cable here. It is very beefy. Let's see if I can do it with one hand. Oh, almost there. There we go. And from there, it looks like the Tesla is waiting. So I will come over here, so scan and pay with the Walmart app. I will switch to my app and get started. Okay, I've switched to my phone's camera app here. I'm going to scan the QR code and that'll open up the Walmart app. It's loading. Don't care about this ad. And it's loading the Walmart EV charging. I will say it shows these are offline, but I click on next and then continue with this card. Payment authorization in progress. Let's see how long this takes. Oh, I hear some clicking. Connecting to charger. And looks like we are charging. All right, we are plugged in and charging here at Walmart Westworth Village, Supercenter 940. Beautiful installation here. We do have pull-through parking for all 8 available slots here.
All right, thank you, Spencer, for that wonderful video showing us Supercenter 940 with its pull-through parking. It is the first out-of-beta location to have exclusively pull-through. 4 Alpitronic Hypercharger HYC 400 units with 4 CCS and 4 NACS at 45 cents per kilowatt hour. So the rate is ticking up a little bit at this location. I believe about 2 days after Spencer's visit here, Westworth Village did appear in the app and everything is fully functional. And then 1 day later, a storm blew through Fort Worth and knocked it offline as well as the surrounding areas. But the following day, everything was back to normal. So good things going on in Westworth Village. And then on Halloween, we got another surprise. Supercenter 807 in North Richland Hills, Texas had fully gone online in 1 day. It's in the app, it's on the website, it's open. So Walmart took a little bit of a different route with the month of October and opened 2 stations. This is the first month in which they opened 2, but it did follow September in which they opened none. So they are still averaging 1 per month right now. That will tick up. So for Alpitronic Hypercharger HYC 400 units with 4 CCS and 4 NACS connectors, this one is again clicking up a little bit, 46 cents per kilowatt hour. So I'm very intrigued with the pricing now that's happening in the DFW. And speaking of pricing, it was finally revealed within the last 2 weeks that Walmart Plus members will in fact receive the much anticipated member discount. It is currently 10% off EV charging. This is a little bit different from how Walmart Plus has functioned with its discounts for gasoline and diesel, but it's still very, very intriguing to me. So intriguing, in fact, I wanted to understand it and how does it line up with the rest of the EV charging industry. So I brought in the expert, none other than Steve from Plug and Play EV, to help us break down this Walmart Plus EV charging discount. All right, and so now I am privileged to be joined by one of the leading experts in pricing for DC fast charging in North America, Steve from Plug and Play EV. Steve, thank you so much for coming on the season finale of the Arkansas eTraveler. It's so great to have you here.
Yeah, my pleasure. What a privilege to be on your not final, but final for the moment? Sure. Thank you, London.
Yeah, it's just a season. So within the last 2 weeks, we're covering a lot of news here from Walmart EV charging, and one of the updates that we got with zero fanfare, as many of their updates have been, is that Walmart Plus members will be receiving 10% off of their EV charging rates at their in-house DC fast charging network. This is actually quite in contrast to their rigid gasoline discounts, which is 10 cents per gallon. This does create some fluidity in that discount amount for EV drivers. So starting there, why do you think Walmart chose to go the percentage route for this rather than the flat rate discount?
Well, I think when you think about Walmart, there's very common everyman kind of feel to the type of customers they're probably looking to pull in, and I don't think kilowatt hour, kilowatts, all of the terminology that the geeks like us throw around is necessarily as familiar. So when you think about an amount per gallon, that kind of makes sense. That's been in everyone's parlance for decades. It's common knowledge. I don't think people really know if 4 cents, 5 cents, 10 cents per kilowatt hour is a great discount or not. So it's something to probably give. Everybody knows what a percentage is. They know roughly what they pay for fast charging if they're comparing notes from other networks, as we'll do later. And I think percentage is just easier to get a handle on. They had to start somewhere, and I do think that percent is easier for people to understand than per kilowatt hour. The discount of that energy level, it makes more sense to me that they would go that route.
Cool. So that's a really good perspective thinking about Walmart's market as a whole. So if it's going to be 10% for Walmart EV charging, we know what their gasoline discounts, they look fairly similar to other retailers and other gas stations that have their own rewards, like fuel rewards with Shell or BP, Amazon. They have a discount as well. So how then can we stack up this 10% discount with the other EV charging providers?
It's on the lower end, so they're bless their hearts, they're starting off somewhere, and that's more than some are doing. Really, when you talk about membership plans, you're only really talking about Tesla, EVgo, and Electrify America. There are some regional exceptions here, like EVCS, but essentially, in terms of nationwide players where people will be familiar with the networks, those are the three. So EA is probably the nearest in some ways. They do a flat 25% discount. You pay for the Pass Plus membership, $7 a month. You get the X amount of 25% off, brings it down to a lower rate per kilowatt hour. So it's fairly easy to understand there. And the people know these price points, so it's quite easy to get that. If you go over to EVgo, it's a little more complicated. They have two levels. There's the EVgo Plus plan, which gives you 15% off, and then the EVgo Plus Max, which is more like 30%. So that's a big kind of discount, but you do have to pay $12.99 for the Plus Max plan there. So you're getting up to the levels of what Walmart Plus as a membership would cost, but for the EVgo, you're only getting the charging. With Walmart Plus, you're getting a whole ecosystem of retail and other discounts. And then the kind of elephant in the room is Tesla, which has a similar amount of discount. It hits about 28%. Essentially, Tesla owners get that anyway, just by virtue of plugging into the network that is kind of synonymous with their car and the automaker. Then everybody else who is a non-Tesla owner has to pay $12.99 a month to get roughly 28% off, on various pricing levels, and that kind of brings them into the Tesla crowd, and they pay the same as Tesla owners then. So you can see 10% is obviously right on the lower end of that. The closest would be EVgo Plus, which is $6.99 a month. But even that is 15%. So they're on the lower end, but then they do have all of the extra benefits that come with Walmart Plus membership, which people like you are probably much more familiar with than I am, but definitely a lot of retail related bonuses in there for them.
All right. So what we're talking about here is two very different animals than the EV charging discounts kind of sandboxed as just that, and then Walmart Plus, which is going to try and provide you savings through a lot of different facets of your life and your shopping retail experience with Walmart. You talked about the prices there for a second. Last I checked, Walmart Plus was $98 a year or $12.95 a month, and then they have a ton of different options, like if you're, a student or some other thing that you can check on their website. There are some discounts. Last year I got half off for Black Friday, so mine was $50 a year essentially. Who do you think among these discount providers actually kind of gives you that bang for your buck, like you actually make that back through charging?
I think you really have to decide who are you going to charge with, right? I mean, the nice thing about the plans, at least, outside of the Walmart Plus, the charging plans are pretty much month to month. So if you're going on a road trip and you say, right, I plan my road trip, Electrify America is 3 of my 5 stops. I know I'm going to get on the Pass Plus plan for 1 month and use that membership because that's where my route's going to take me. And I pretty much can say, got 25% savings. I calculate it's around 55 to 56 kilowatt hours. I think you have to charge pretty much 1 session. So if you're going to do 2 or 3 sessions, you know that that's going to be your way. But if you were going along and you weren't really going to use Electrify America, weren't going to use EVgo, but maybe you decided to lock yourself into Tesla's, just through sheer coverage that Tesla is probably going to have an option for you along the way. So maybe in that case, you pay the $12.99 for Tesla. It really comes down to, in terms of travel, who you're going to use on that particular trip and whether you want to carry it on for a following month. The other kind of constituent use case may be people who have no access to home charging, who maybe want to, get on a membership plan to cut down a regular fast charge that they're going to use in lieu of having home charging, or wanting to wait, ages on a level 2 charger. Maybe fast charging is their kind of band-aid for a while to fix that before they can get destination charging. In that case, it really comes down to who's close to me, which location is convenient, where do I want to go to charge, and what am I going to do for the 30-40 minutes that I need that charge. That may bring you into a moment where you want to pay for the membership. Then it really just comes down to, what's the pricing like around me. It may be 25% off for EA, but if all of those are set at their highest price cap, which can be up to 72 cents per kilowatt hour, that doesn't bring it down much cheaper than some of the others. So it's really kind of doing the calculus on what's the most convenient in your local area and what the prices look like before and after the discounts on each.
Okay, so let's talk about pricing in general then. Overall, how is Walmart EV Charging's pricing stacking up compared to the other networks? Now, we have a very small sample size, most of it obviously in the DFW Metroplex, but right now they're around 43, 44 cents per kilowatt hour. They're showing some variability, Chakotah, Oklahoma being 53, but the rule there being taxes baked in. The new Westworth Village location that we just covered is pull-through, so they're charging 45 cents there instead of 42. It's very, very early, and we're getting glimpses of the plan, but so far, how are they stacking up?
Even before discounts, I mean, they are generally on the better side of pricing. Usually, there's a few different indexes that the industry kind of runs. Usually, it falls either side of 50 cents per kilowatt hour, being the national average. It's a little bit higher if you go into some different kind of indexes, may go up to 53, 54. But essentially, you're looking at around that 50-cent mark. So anything that comes in below that, especially in the Southwest region as well, is looking pretty good. So if they're at 42, 44 cents per kilowatt hour, that's very solid. In terms of, I kind of drilled down a little bit, as you said, into the DFW area, just because that's where they have so many stations and that's where you can kind of see the density building up. They're very affordable down there. It's kind of on the only one with a lower average would be maybe Iona on the third-party networks. But then if you factor in Tesla and the kind of memberships we've talked about, Tesla gets down to some really, really low prices. Now, Tesla's quite awkward to manage because they use time of use at some locations. They have the member rate, the non-member rate. So comparing apples to apples is a little harder. If you really want to get the cheapest charge at a Tesla location, you can get down to below 20 cents per kilowatt hour, which is outstanding, but then you're charging middle of the night, nothing's open. It's not necessarily a fair comparison to someone who's shopping at a Walmart. So really, if you're looking at the averages in that DFW area, mostly it's Walmart is one of the cheaper options. Tesla maybe is lower than them, and then Iona tends to come in around the same price. There's also a regional provider called Hyperfuel, which is starting to go in. They do have a higher peak rate at around 50 cents per kilowatt hour. So you can see there's a little ebb and flow there. A flat rate is always going to be difficult to compare to a time of use rate because it really depends on your use case, but they're definitely playing in the right pool rather than the more expensive providers who can get into the kind of high 50s, low 60s.
All right, so talking about these discounts and knowing where Walmart EV charging pricing appears to be headed right now, kind of begs a question here. Will this new incentive with Walmart Plus have any impact on their membership numbers, which best I can tell is somewhere between 26.5 to 30 million, somewhere in there, members? Or is this a part of some other effort that Walmart is putting together that obviously with the growth of the network, we might see some other things come to play?
Yeah, I think you have to extrapolate into the future, right? And this is eventually a national play. That's why I think the percentage makes more sense because 3 or 4 cents in one state makes very little difference if it's 60 or 70 cents in another. So the 10% gives you a nice variable kind of across states solution, and it may change. But I think in terms of driving revenue, this is going to be negligible at the moment. It's another thing that they add to the pile of Walmart Plus membership perks. But long term, you can see as you've covered on the channel, excellently, the number of stations that are in the pipeline is ridiculous, more than pretty much any other charging provider out there, including Tesla. And then if you're getting to a place where you're in the reach of 90+% of the US population, you can start to see that it sells a Walmart charging plan or sells a Walmart Plus plan if you have an electric vehicle. If a lot of the the population has gone electric in 5-10 years time, it starts to be an extra kind of item on that list of reasons that somebody might jump up to Walmart Plus. And I think at that point it starts to drive meaningful revenue because it's also it's long term, it unites the retail and the charging behavior. So they can start to see, from the data side of things, what does an EV driver look like compared to a regular customer or a gas customer? What kind of dwell time do they have? Do they spend more in the store? Are they going to come more frequently for their charging session because that's something that maybe needs to be done a little more often? It's just starts to build the foundations for something that is much bigger. So up front, I don't think it makes a whole lot of difference. I don't think people are going to rush out and buy Walmart Plus plans for 10% off charging when there are similarly cheap options around. But in the long term, it starts to put the building blocks of a wider retail and charging ecosystem in place.
All right, so then the last question that I have for this is, who are the people who might find this advantageous, and maybe it's in the future as well, who find some kind of advantage with having this discount and having the Walmart Plus membership? And who are the people who find this as, another ancillary benefit with the membership?
Well, I think the Venn diagram of people who have Walmart Plus and an EV and regularly are close to a Walmart with charging is probably a very small sliver at the moment. But in that group of people, it's kind of a no-brainer, right? Of course, you're going to, if you're already a member of Walmart Plus or you were very close to flipping between Amazon or Walmart, it may push you over the edge if you're in the DFW area, kind of somewhere in Oklahoma or somewhere near one of these hundreds of stations that could potentially open in the next 6 to 12 months. So there's that piece to it. As far as ancillary, I think it's you're probably not going to see for 10% people changing their Tesla plan or their EVgo plan. I don't think it has enough baked in to make that happen. But at some point, if you're regularly charging, if you find that your local Walmart has a charging station that's convenient, it aligns with your grocery run and the things that you want to do, that could certainly be something you add in. And possibly rideshare, it's a little bit kind of left field because I think the Uber and Lyft get a very good deal with EVgo and some of the other providers, but in some cases there may be a kind of scenario where a rideshare driver has a Walmart that makes sense and they want to just jump on board for the benefits of the grocery shopping, but also to get their charging, which is their livelihood, down to a lower rate.
I couldn't agree more. I see this as a first step for Walmart EV charging, trying to become a part of the larger Walmart ecosystem, both on the retail side and in other aspects of the company. And I think that as this grows, it probably becomes more enticing for more people. And I definitely look forward to seeing that. Steve, thank you so much for coming on. I'm so glad that you were able to do this. And thank you so much for your insight. We love watching Coast to Coast EVs and everything that you provide through Plug and Play EV as well. Thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks for keeping on top of all these developments. Whereas the pricing piece was interesting and I was glad to see it arise from you. So thank you.
And again, many thanks to Steve for coming on to discuss this discount. I went ahead and created a chart for visualizing some of the things that he was talking about. This chart is based on a national average of 52 cents per kilowatt hour. With Electrify America, the Pass Plus is $7 and you get a 25% discount. So your $7 per month, it would take about 54 kilowatt hours dispensed in order to make that $7 back. For Teslas, or at least the non-Tesla membership, you can purchase it for $12.99 a month and you get somewhere around 30%. We'll call that the average, meaning that you would have to charge 83 kilowatt hours in order to make that back. For Walmart Plus, if you choose to go the per month route with that, it's $12.99 per month. If you go the per year, it's somewhere around $10. But for $12.95 per month, the discount being 10%, you would have to charge 249 kilowatt hours over the course of the month in order to make the $12.95 per month back. So this draws a conclusion that I think a lot of us already saw coming. Walmart Plus does not make sense as a charging subscription exclusively, nor is that the intention by Walmart. This discount just ensures EV drivers are not excluded from Walmart Plus refueling discounts. I think this is an act of good faith, a nice gesture by Walmart to include its EV charging customers. And again, right now, this is only really going to be of benefit to the DFW, but within the next year, this is going to be a benefit to Florida. This is going to be a benefit to possibly California and other places around the country where we have seen massive permits in their databases. So this is a nice perk if you already have Walmart Plus. I don't see anybody rushing out to get Walmart Plus just for the EV charging, but who knows? In the future with network growth, and if this discount were to change in any direction, things would also change. So good on Walmart for including this. It makes me feel like I'm important to them as a Walmart Plus member, so I really like this. So following that interview with Steve, another surprise came out on Halloween, or at least that's when I found it. Time of use pricing has entered the Walmart EV charging network. It is only available right now at Supercenter 1178 in Bedford, Texas. The only reason that I found it was because Bedford went from 42 cents per kilowatt hour to 46 cents per kilowatt hour, and I thought that was strange. But then as I went a little bit deeper into the app, I found this graphic for current price detail showing that they had variable time of use rates. So from 12 a.m. to 8 a.m., you get a charging rate of 25 cents per kilowatt hour. That resumes at 11 p.m. But during the day, it's the normal 46 cents per kilowatt hour. As you can see by that green bar above the pricing, that is the time in which the store is open. So essentially, if you are going to try and grocery shop while you charge, if you so choose, you get 2 hours at which the lower rate is available while the store is open, from 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. And actually, in my experience growing up, I had a lot of friends, parents. My parents would do this occasionally on the weekends. That's a nice time to shop. Things are quiet, and things are just beginning for the store, so it's fairly calm. It's not a bad time to do this. So their restocking is fresh at that point, so it's not a bad deal to shop during those 2 hours. But if you're going to get that discounted off-peak pricing and shop, you have a 2-hour window in the morning to do it. Otherwise, it's the full 46 cents per kilowatt hour. Hopefully this goes to other locations too. They may just be piloting it here. I'm not sure, but we do know that it is a part of their plan now. All right, and one of the big pieces of news that came out within the last 2 weeks is that Walmart EV charging has officially made its way into the Alternative Fuels Data Center database. Now, if you know anything about that government venture, it's probably from Walter from the Network Architect channel. And so he has joined me and has been very kind with his time this evening to come on and help us discuss what does this mean for the network. Walter, thank you so much for joining in.
Glad to be here, Landon.
All right, so the first question is other than maybe your weekly updates that you post on TNAC on Friday, some of us, probably myself included, aren't entirely familiar with what exactly this Alternative Fuels Data Center database is. So can you give us a little rundown on what it is that you're diving into every Friday morning for all of us to watch?
Certainly, and I believe the intention of the charter for the National Alternative Fuels Data Center database was to provide location listings for transportation that was non-petroleum based for various reasons, not really political, just to have a resource available for people looking for alternative ways of getting around besides gasoline. But since the onset of the electric vehicle revolution, it has become a source for tracking electric vehicle charging stations. By and large, that's what the Alternative Fuels Data Center database is populated with. And if you look at entries on any given week, it's by and large electric vehicle charging. There's a few other stragglers out there, but really is electric vehicle charging stations. And they delineate between level 2 and DC fast chargers. In my particular effort, I've decided to focus specifically on DC fast chargers. If I tried to do level 2, it would just be a little bit too much. So as a resource, it's not great. As a professional technologist, I can say that too many chefs spoil the broth or brew. I forgot the exact phrase, but there's many chefs in the kitchen, and basically every CPO is allowed to basically put their own little spin on the recipe of what they add to the database, and that makes for rather unclean data. And as someone who works with data and analytics and things like that, it shows through for sure. So I try to do the best I can with what I have. It also is commonly referred to by people in the media who are trying to get some kind of picture for what electric vehicle charging looks like throughout the United States as far as growth goes, and total aggregate numbers and things like that. But I find it to be such an unreliable source that I basically just use it to get a snapshot of what happened in the past week. So I figure if I keep it in those guardrails, it has relevant information.
All right, so a part of the Alternative Fuels Data Center database, as you mentioned, DC fast charging, and that's what you focus on. That's what I've been focusing on with Walmart, and Walmart has now had their entry into that database. But my understanding, and from my own perusal several months ago through the database, where I said, nope, I'm done, because I don't know SQL or any of that. Even the Excel version was a lot. But just, it seemed like Walmart maybe had a little bit of an unusual entry into it. Can you speak more to that?
Sure. So originally, it was through their partnership with ChargePoint. And because ChargePoint is a longstanding CPO, they built in an integration to the Alternative Fuels Data Center database in order to propagate new stations using what's known as an API interface, where things are done transactionally, basically in near real time. The other way of getting data into the Alternative Fuels Data Center database is by passing them a file, basically an Excel file or a CSV file. And then they will have an operator load that file for the given CPO. And strangely enough, although Tesla is very tech forward, they're one of the ones who use the outdated method of the CSV and basically just update once per week on regular intervals. Sometimes they skip a week, sometimes they do 2 in a week, but generally once per week, Tesla will upload a CSV file with their entries. And other CPOs are similar like that. So with that being the case, Walmart was able to propagate entries with specificity anytime a station opened using their ChargePoint hardware. And that's when it first became a part of my awareness that this is actually, they had the press releases, but then they actually started to put some stations into the Alternative Fuels Data Center using ChargePoint. And using some SQL, I was able to come up with a way of tracking. But then they basically went off script and were looking at keeping the partnership with ChargePoint as basically an OCPP backend provider of payment processing and a few other things. So it was still able to be tracked because ChargePoint was the OCPP backend provider for their Alpitronics stations, but then that broke too. And then we were basically left without any way of tracking besides your noble efforts.
Okay. So did that mean that the entries that they were putting in, were they kind of like placeholders? Because I know a lot of them were kind of appearing before they were officially online, or at least that was my understanding.
Yeah, so I was in the Wayback Machine back in what I just said, but there was also a phase later on where Walmart was starting to appear, and it was a little tricky to identify their entries because it would say Walmart Supercenter, and as we all know, if you look at Walmart Supercenter, you're going to get a boatload of Electrify America stations, but there's also other fields in the database, one of which is EV Network. So if you look at Walmart Supercenter as a station name and you exclude all the Electrify Americas, you can kind of get a better rundown of what's out there. And so I was looking at like certain states where I knew they had stations open, specifically Texas, Oklahoma, and Arkansas. And I was trying to see, are there any entries in this database that have Walmart but are not Electrify America? And that way I could come up with a way of seeing if there's some way that they're putting entries in there that I am able to then subsequently track. Because we know they're putting in stations, and we know they were doing so with ChargePoint. So I figured it was just a matter of time before eventually they were going to start doing so on their own fruition. And we started to see entries with the CPO listed as non-networked, which is a pretty common CPO name, meaning you're not one of the listed networks. So you're just a non-networked CPO. And we did start to see entries in there, except there was no stall count and no open dates. So they appeared to be placeholder records.
All right. And then within the last 2 weeks, those placeholders became what I am supposing are bona fide data entries into the database. How did you come across those changes? Did they actually become a network that you were able to hit on, or was it something else?
Yeah, so every Friday morning, you mentioned the TNAC update. Basically, every Friday morning, I've got a train I need to catch at 6. I've got two choices, either 6:31 or 6:46. And prior to that, I wake up at about 5:45, and I've got a little window of time. And I start banging away with SQL. I download the fresh file from the Alternative Fuels, and I put together the video, and I turn it off, and then I run out the door. It's basically the pattern that I go through. And included in that SQL that I run through every single week is a listing of all the CPOs that are in the database, bar none. And in doing so, I could quickly spot if there's any new ones. You do this a couple of weeks, and eventually the usual suspects start to become familiar. And I was looking for anything that said Walmart or anything along those, and sure enough, there was a Walmart one. And then you could very easily create a search in order to say, okay, give me all the ones that have the EV network listed as Walmart, and boom, there was a whole bunch of entries.
Okay, so I'm assuming from what I remember, it was 7 stations. Those are the ones in Texas, plus Chakotah, Oklahoma. Springdale, Arkansas was not in there, one of the beta sites that we know is about to go through a transformation to look like the other ones with a pull-through stall and Alpitronic hardware. And now we've got Westworth Village online, and we're waiting for its entry into the database. Is that going to give you some clues as to their intentions with CSV versus API, turnaround to get it in, how fresh the data will actually be? What are you looking forward to seeing with new entries coming in as they come online?
Yeah, I'm pretty confident I have a beat on what's occurring in the back end. First, they had to establish that CPO name in the database, which is basically Walmart as the CPO name. And now that they have it and they've completed what's known as the proof of concept phase of that integration occurring, they need to build the back-end processes in order for their stations to start appearing. I don't think they're going to do CSV. It seems very contrary to Walmart's technology stack. They're very tech forward and rely on APIs for multiple different things. They run their own app, and all these things are run off API engines. So likely what's going on in the back end is the software inside the Alpitronic hyperchargers is OCPPing in directly into Walmart, if I had to guess. And the app integration, all that is development man hours that needs to occur in order for those integrations to complete. Likely what's going on right now is there's something in Walmart governance requesting a inclusion of an API call to the alternative fuels data center database anytime a station opens. And so in order to do that, you need to do development work where you can identify when a station is flagged as open inside their own systems. And then when that occurs, it would trigger an API call over to the alternative fuels data center database in order to populate a new record according to the format that is predetermined over there. And all that sounds easy verbally, but I know that for large companies like that, those development cycles actually take time. So I would have to expect that development is currently occurring. And if I had to stab a guess, probably a couple months of development work before that's baked. So likely what we'll see is these 7 stations sitting out there as canary in the coal mine, just kind of proving the concept as viable. And then at some point in the future, probably around Christmas, maybe the first of the year, you'll start to see things popping in near real time. Anytime a station actually opens and they flag it as open in their systems, it'll populate over to the alternative fuels data center database. So that's basically what I'm looking for is the flood. And as you know better than anyone, what we're looking at is a tsunami of stations. I was just going through doing a plug share sweep today, and I can't get through the Metroplex anymore. It's about a 25-minute sweep every time I go into the Metroplex, and it's 60-70% Walmart.
Yeah, and we're getting ready to reveal another site here, at least one more coming up in just the end of the episode, so stay tuned. But yeah, so you're right. And so now I'm kind of wondering, based on your experience, what we've seen from Walmart so far is that they'll go to their website, which just was totally revamped, and they'll give you a coming soon list. And then once the station's in the app, it will eventually go to the state in which it's located. But with that tsunami, I'm almost wondering, would it be easier to go through SQL query rather than relying on Old Faithful, I guess, to find the differences on the website? Just asking for advice here as I get ready to traverse this tsunami.
Yeah, so I have been watching your videos religiously, and I do think the spreadsheet method that you currently have might start to become unruly. And I don't really have a good answer for it. I just kind of gravitate towards databases because I've been working in technology my whole career. And for me, I don't like Microsoft Excel. If I have some data that needs to be in a table, I throw it into a database. And for me, that's just easier to manage. I could run reports on it, not necessarily raw SQL, but you could do other types of things with data in a database. You extract it, you could feed it into an analytics engine like Splunk or something like that. So I'm not really sure what the answer is, but as the numbers start to increase, I actually think Walmart might solve the problem, because as you say, their current website design seems to be very operator intensive. Like someone is actually there typing away at the names of the stations, and that's not a sustainable approach. So likely they'll solve the problem for you. And I kind of like letting CPOs do the work for me, if at all possible. So for instance, Iona has their nice website, and Mercedes-Benz is doing pretty good. And I have the alternative fuels database. Pilot Flying J is actually a bit of a heavy lift for me, but it's a personal passion, so I'm keeping that going just from my own devices. So that is what it is. But I would say just do a pause and assess every so often to see what's currently available coming from Walmart themselves, to see if that's a sustainable approach. I think you'll find as time goes on, these spreadsheet that you have might become a little bit unruly.
There may be some background things that I've managed to hide that might suggest it's already there, especially on the permitting tab. But yes, hey, Walter, thank you so much for doing this with me. I thought it was a big step for Walmart to get bona fide entries into the data center database, and I'm excited to see all of the API connections and integrations that they might very well bake in over the next few months.
It'll be very exciting to watch.
All right. Thank you so much. And in the next piece of news, Walmart EV Charging's website has received quite the makeover. I actually got to see this happening in real time. It was during my lunch break. I just went to go check it to make sure no new stations were coming soon. And I saw like this half put together web page, and I thought, oh no. And then I tried to use it and it was unusable, but over the course of the next 2 hours, new elements were appearing. So I watched this website basically get built and pushed to the internet as it was happening live, which was kind of cool. So this is what it looks like now in chunks. The good news is, for my purposes, there on the right, the list of locations is still as it has been. All right, that's a big resource for me. But for everybody else, the picture on the left, there's a button there that you can press and it will take you to a map. And there you can, it's basically a search directory for Walmarts. So you can put in, hey, I want to check out supercenters in this town. And then if you're looking specifically for EV charging at those supercenters, there is a funneling tab or a button that you can push, and it will only populate the ones that have EV charging. It's still a little bit clunky, I want to say right now. It's great compared to where it was, so there's obviously progress being made. But I actually see potential here for maybe route planning through this website once the network is in fact nationwide. So this is exciting. It's a little bit of a hint into the future, and I really like the direction they're going. There is one interesting little nugget on here. I want to see if you know what it is that isn't quite right. There's one thing in these graphics that isn't just right. Comment below if you see what it is. I would love to see if your eyes spot the same thing that I do. Otherwise, that's just a little fun. Otherwise, this is a tremendous step forward for Walmart EV charging. And I look forward to getting to use this website in new ways, hopefully to help me in ways that Walter was just describing, to manage the data that comes from Walmart EV charging. All right, so why a season finale? Two main reasons. First, the Arkansas eTraveler is now 1 year old as of this week. And because of that, 1,300 of you have subscribed to the channel. I want to say thank you so much. I take it as a personal vote of confidence that you are enjoying what I'm able to give you. If you haven't subscribed yet, I would encourage you to do so. It's going to be useful for you potentially as we go through this venture together. The second reason that this is a season finale is Well, it's kind of a season finale for me. My daughter is expected to be born next week. As you can imagine, that's going to demand much of my time. Walmart EV charging will have to take a little bit of a back seat, but I will be keeping an eye on it. And that's where you can come in handy. I am begging for your help to track this massive network. I'm going to leave a Google form link in the channel description, as well as the video description. If you find in your local jurisdiction's permits, or if you see construction activity with your own eyes at a local Walmart that looks like it could be for EV charging, please use that Google form to submit all of the information that you can. There's even a spot for photos. Now, I won't be totally removing myself from this project for the next 4 to 6 weeks, maybe just from creating content. But join me over on X, and I will be able to share what we find daily over there, so long as the baby allows. Again, thank you to everybody who has subscribed and has watched this far. There's still plenty to go in this video, so let's get back to it. All right, and let's check out the construction progress at the 2 latest sites to be marked as coming soon by Walmart. Supercenter 779 in Lakeland, Florida. Again, a sleeper site we did not find in permitting. You can see there, chargers are in the ground. The beautiful blue ABB A400 units. They are seated and construction goes on around them. This is courtesy of PlugShare user at Tampa Chris EVs. 4 ABB A400 units with 4 CCS and 4 NACs. And in the app, you can see that it's going to be 46 cents per kilowatt hour, which is a fairly good rate for Florida. And then, of course, once you add in the Walmart Plus discount, you're looking at closer to 41 or 42. But also Walmart added Supercenter 5709 is coming soon a few weeks ago. Locust Grove, Georgia is the town for this one, near Metro Atlanta along I-75. I brought in a special guest to tell us what's going on here. So let's welcome in Scott Owens. All right, and I'm excited to introduce a new face here on the Arkansas eTraveler, but a familiar face to most of us, Scott Owens. He's a Georgia native and does a great job covering the Atlanta metro area and I-75. Scott, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you, Landon. Thank you for having me. It's nice to meet you.
Yeah, so you cover I-75 really well with your road tripping and travels. You've also met with Walter on out-of-spec bits, so you definitely have some good working knowledge of the area. Most recently, 2 weeks ago, Locust Grove, Georgia became a coming soon location, just popped up as a sleeper site for us, and you were generous with your time to go check it out. So what did you come across when you went to go see it?
Well, I was also very curious, by the way. I'm glad to help, but I also am self-serving. I'm very interested in the whole I-75 corridor and what all's going on there. The Locust Grove facility just recently had a Mercedes-Benz pop up out of nowhere that nobody knew about. And then right across the street is the Walmart, which was probably underway when I was checking out the Mercedes-Benz and just didn't know to drive up and look. So you had mentioned, I think, in one of your updates that there was something coming down there. So I decided to go down and check it out. And they've got big black fences up with tarps. They want you to seal it up where you can kind of see a silhouette, but you really can't get a good look unless you're tall like I am and you can hold your iPhone over the fence, which is what I did. So I was able to see pictures of the site better than I could see it directly because they have it all overlap. But it's a good location. It's for me traveling to Florida, I would usually charge at home. So I wouldn't be charging up until I get down to Tifton or Valdosta, usually depending on if it's winter or summer. But coming back, a lot of times I might be where that's about appropriate right before I get into Atlanta traffic to bump up a little bit to get me home. So it's ideal that for either one of those. So I'm anxious to see what Walmart does. They in watching your channel, it seems like they can put them in the ground quickly. So I'm going to run down there tomorrow. It's finally cleared off, and it's been about 3 weeks since I was down there just to see if they've made any progress. They had the chargers there. I think they were still in boxes at the time, but they had everything. It looked like a Heath kit ready to go together.
Well, that's certainly good to hear. Yeah, they do work really, really quickly, which is kind of why, as we enter this coming soon phase that Walmart Energy has introduced on their website, I'm still trying to navigate that. So when you sent me the first round of pictures, it was admittedly a little bit disappointed with what I had saw. So what exactly did you see on the other side of the fence that makes them think it's coming soon?
So the fence had it was a huge area that they had fenced off, and it may not have come through my pictures very well, but they had all of the conduit in the ground. They had the asphalt all dug up. They had the conduit in the ground. They had it stubbed out. They had everything stubbed out for a transformer, and I think the chargers sitting there are ready to go. It would not surprise me if the chargers are sitting on their pedestals by now, but we'll see. It has rained a lot here the past week, so it may have slowed them down a little bit, but it looked like to me from the way that Walmart seems to have got this recipe down, they had everything in place. Like I said, like a Heath kit, the work in the ground was done. I think it could go pretty quickly. It may just be gated by the transformer.
And one other thing that we know about the Georgia Atlanta market here is that Walmart is going to utilize the ABB A400 units in that particular market. Have you seen or used them before?
I've never seen one of those chargers, and I've seen pictures of it. I think in Arizona they're putting them in, and I'm kind of anxious to see how they look and how they perform. I did go up to Lawrenceville. I think that's on the Walmart site, and there's a Norcross Walmart. Both of those, nothing. There's no evidence at all of anything going on at either one of those currently.
Yeah, you're right. The permitting dates for Norcross and Lawrenceville were much later. They're very, very fresh. This one, obviously, we don't have online permitting for Locust Grove, but clearly it was done early on in order for them to be at this point. All right, so then how would you assess Locust Grove itself? Is this like a metro suburban area, or is this a highway corridor? Because it does have a somewhat close proximity to Atlanta, but also not really. So is this metro? Is this highway corridor?
Okay, that's a good question. Because I love road tripping. So I'm kind of, you pay attention to kind of how big an exit is built up. And this whole exit looks to me like it was probably not much to it at all a couple of years ago. I think it had maybe a Starbucks, and it looks like, if you even go to Google Maps, you can see where the Mercedes-Benz is sitting in front of the Mercedes-Benz chargers in front of a Moe's and a Papa John's. None of that was there. It was a field. So that, if you look at the Google Earth or Google Maps, a lot of that was just nothing. And it's a exit that's built up. So it has a little bit of everything now, and it's the Walmart is right across the street from the Mercedes-Benz charger. So if you had a deal at Walmart, you weren't wanting to shop at Walmart, but you wanted to charge there, you could easily walk across to the little restaurants and eat there as well. So I think it's a very convenient stop. It's an easy on, easy off exit, and it's before you get in the thick of traffic if you happen to be traveling north into Atlanta when traffic starts accumulating like mid-afternoon or something.
All right, so being an EV enthusiast and a DC fast charging enthusiast yourself, how would you assess the charging infrastructure on the I-75 corridor down towards Florida? And how do you think Walmart will fit into it?
So when I first started traveling back and forth to Florida in an electric car, it was January of last year. So I've been kind of doing the EV thing for 2 years, but I'm kind of a geek, and it was something that surprised me how much I would enjoy it. I'm not historically been a road tripper, and it's just so much easier, so much more pleasant, so much more fun in an electric car. And even just 2 years ago, there was kind of an Electrify America in Tifton. Cordele, Georgia had an Electrify America, and there was an old broke down Electrify America that's still in Valdosta. And that was about it. And since then, there's a Pilot Flying J in Jackson. There's a Pilot Flying J in Tifton. There's a Pilot Flying J in Cordele. There's an Iona going in Cordele. There's an Iona in Valdosta. There's a Mercedes-Benz in Locust Grove. There's an Iona starting at Forest Park. It's supposed to open up soon right near the Atlanta 285 Perimeter Highway. And now the Walmart location, which looks like it's going to be serviced as well. So I think there's plenty of charging now up and down I-75 for just about any flavor of kind of deal you might have with your favorite charging company, or some kind of a pass that you might have. You could do it. It's great to have alternatives to Electrify America. I know Electrify America's done a lot better of late, and they've turned around, and their reliability's gotten better. But they still tend to be crowded. They tend to have a lot of people with free charging, and I just tend to avoid them. I have free charging without Electrify America, and I don't think free's worth it. I would rather pay at one of these other facilities and be able to immediately charge, get a reliable, fast charge. So I applaud what Walmart's doing. I think it's great that they're going to get, I think the folks that aren't EV enthusiasts on board now, because it'll be just easy to charge anywhere once Walmart has their entire infrastructure up and running.
Yeah, you're absolutely right about the free charging thing. That's kind of what has happened over at 4108 in Springdale, the beta site that's still free. Like, sometimes it's a riot to try and get in there. I think I would prefer the calmness, and that's what, charging for your charge will bring about. So, hey, Scott, thanks so much for coming on. I really do appreciate it and hope to have you back on in the future.
Sure thing. I'd be glad to, Glenn, and I appreciate everything you're doing.
All right, and now for everybody's favorite part of the episode, this being the season finale, we are going to include permits. Supercenter 3286 in Hickory Creek, Texas. This will join the northern parts of the DFW Metroplex with the installation of electric vehicle charging infrastructure. Walmart proposes remodeling a portion of the northern parking lot to install 8 EV charging stations. No doubt this will include 4 Alpitronic HYC 400 units, and I look forward to seeing this one add to the bevy of activity in the Metroplex. Up next, I was able to spot Supercenter 3757 in Arlington, Washington. This one's interesting because it was found listed under active development projects under construction. So I don't have any eyes on this one. We just found it, but it could already be under construction. We have reason to believe that could be happening in the Seattle area. But what's also of interest to this one is it looks like they're going to have an employee EV charging as well. And so a lot of good activity happening at this location in Arlington, Washington. Up next, back to Tampa, Supercenter 5221 at 8885 North Florida Avenue. It will be the installation of EV chargers in the parking lot, requiring the restriping and everything. So more for Tampa here. Up next, Supercenter 4260 in Port St. Lucie, Florida. I mentioned this one 2 weeks ago. I couldn't find the permit, but thanks to Skunk Cape EV, he emailed me where he did in fact find the permit and the permit number. Looks like it was applied for back in February, so this one should be getting under construction fairly soon. So good news for the east coast of Florida and Port St. Lucie. Let's go to the west coast, Supercenter 2245 in Oceanside, California. A vague permit here, but new EVCS infrastructure with an existing Walmart parking lot. This was applied for only about 2 weeks ago, so this one's very, very fresh, but looks to be coming to the interior parts of Oceanside, California. Also in California, found by Don at EV-Texans, Neighborhood Market 3022 in Stockton at 1189 East March Lane. They look to provide electric vehicle charging stations for the existing Walmart Neighborhood Market and add to the growing list of locations in California. So let's take a look at the locations we just added, and then we will take a look at the data tables as well. And there you have it. Massive amounts of news coming from Walmart Energy and their DC fast charging network rollout. I'm excited for what the future holds. I think that this is going to be a great adventure for us all. But one more surprise. As we go into season 2 in the not too distant future, it's going to be out with the old and in with the new. I look forward to seeing them. Until then, Happy trails.